UFO control group has been shooting down UFOs for a long time. Should they? Well, Gary Nolan says he is not going to have any part of that. Stephen Greer issues a warning about that and also says he's pursuing action to stop that. Lieutenant Colonel Blitch also talks about shooting down UFOs and the problems with shooting down UFOs. So let's talk about it all. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, our first story comes from a podcast that David Haith thankfully transcribed or at least broke down for us. This podcast right here, and I'll link to the full podcast below. And I really appreciate David for breaking these podcasts down. Certainly saves me time. But yeah, okay, so whistleblower Jake Barber revealed in a News Nation interview that some NHI craft are forced down by microwave weapons. Scientist Gary Nolan, who has shown in the same show attending a Skywatcher psionics session, has resolved not to be involved in any such kinetic action. And he thinks no shootdowns should be a community red line too, unless the craft are hostile. Asked by Ross Coulthart about weapons being used by Skywatcher, Jake Barber said they are invited to land by the psionics team. Other times they are invited by the psionics team, but then high-powered microwave weapons are deployed and they have an effect where they can disrupt the flight pattern of the object and it can result in the aircraft being forced down. And actually UFO shootdowns predate these microwave weapons. We've been shooting UFOs down for a long time, weirdly as it seems, with missiles, even bullets. There was a military pilot who, I believe in the 1960s, was ordered to chase and shoot down a UFO using the bullets of his jet. To successful result. I mean, successful if you count shooting down a UFO successful, but yeah, they actually brought this ship down with conventional weapons. So weird. How does that make any sense? I don't know, but he did seem like a credible witness. Gary Nolan says he doesn't want any part of shooting these things down. That is a red line. And I don't blame him for that. In this episode of That UFO podcast, Gary Nolan said that things just land and turn off and give themselves to you, or some sort of kinetic action is taken against them, which is not, in my opinion, given that you don't know who or what might be in it or who it belongs to and what the reaction might be by doing so. It wouldn't be a wise thing. Gary Nolan said, he made it quite clear, I said that I will not be involved in anything that involves kinetic action. I just don't want to go anywhere near that. And I think it should be a red line that the community uses unless it's clearly hostile, in which case, all options are open. Totally agree with that. I think that we need to be very cautious with shooting down UFOs. I, am alarmed that they are doing that and that they are making a spiritual or consciousness connection with these craft and the beings aboard them, and then using that or abusing that to lure these craft in and then shoot them down. Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch says one problem with that is that we're not even differentiating between friends and foes.
And we're not discriminating friend versus foe. How do we know who's the bad guys up there? If you got a flying saucer or a little egg or whatever it is coming into our atmosphere, how do you know they're going to kidnap a kid out of the bedroom, or they're just going to welcome you aboard like the friendly space brothers and sisters that are rumored to have occurred? So
that's a good question. Now, I've heard there is actually a friend and foe signal, and we can differentiate. Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch, who has some access into shooting these things down via his connection to Jake Barber and who knows what else, says that we don't. So I do think there's different factions doing different things. There's deeper levels of the control group that are working with beings and assisting in abductions and going off world and all that kind of stuff. But maybe at this level, they're not differentiating between friend and foe. So that's another problem. The UFO control group is so fractured and fragmented that different groups don't know what each other are doing or who's allied with who. It's interesting, but it's frustrating. And Stephen Greer says the beings aren't going to take it anymore.
These civilizations out in space are absolutely fed up with that. And let me be clear about this. This is a warning and it is a threat. If we stay on that path much longer, the dangers to peaceful civilizations out in space and other transdimensional space-based civilizations is that it is untenable. So we're at a crisis and we have to fix it. And the way we're going to fix it is to stand down completely those aggressive weapon systems. Now, one of the executive orders that I have recommended to the incoming president and the Congress is an immediate cessation of the use of those systems that target, bring down these craft through a forced effort as opposed to peaceful contact.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, a good proposal by Stephen Greer. I kind of hope that happens. I think that's important. Now, I say I kind of hope that happens because there are scary things that do happen, and there do seem to be hostile and negative entities that are interacting with humanity, and some that go both ways. For example, Lieutenant Colonel Blitch talks about being an experiencer, contactee, and interacting with a mantis being in which he had an alarming experience in some ways and reassuring in other ways. And I'll be talking more about his specific experiences before, but yeah, mantis beings are complicated. The phenomenon in general is very complicated, and it seems like it might be wise to protect ourselves from the negative aspects of it and embrace the positive aspects of it. So we do need to be able to differentiate. We need the various elements of the UFO control group, first of all, to have oversight so we know what the hell they're doing, and because they have done some shady things in the past and are still doing it. And also, we need them to all to be working together so they know what each other are doing. It's not a bunch of compartmentalized groups doing different things, potentially with different beings. Now, in that same podcast, Stephen Greer spreads the disinformation that there are no alien abductions, that it's all, biological robots from the military. And he has said this repeatedly over the years, that it's a government plot to spread fear of the phenomenon. And here is where Stephen Greer and I part. He talks about biological robot gray aliens that kidnap people to spread fear. But our best information from the Edgar Mitchell Foundation that reports 8 out of 10 long-term experiencers have a favorable view of their experiences. Clearly show that the abduction phenomenon is not designed to sow fear. Also, because most people have their minds wiped after their encounters. So again, not designed to sow fear. Our best evidence on how widespread the abduction phenomenon comes from the Roper poll by John Mack, Bud Hopkins, and David Jacobs in the 90s that indicated, with some later supplemental information by David Jacobs, that anywhere between 2 and 5% of the world populace is being abducted. And many of these, if not most, are long-time abductees, lifetime abductees, and contactees. So we're talking about 200 million or more people often being continuously abducted throughout their lives, globally going back many decades, if not centuries or millennia. Not something the U.S. military is doing. So Stephen Greer continues to spread this disinformation about abductions, and he's still doing it, and it really bothers me. Because again, it is disinformation. And it's very frustrating because he's right about so many other things, and he does have great contact and access and information, and he is able to bring great whistleblowers forward and work with others like Jake Barber. But I agree with Gary Nolan. I wouldn't want to be a party to any UFO shootdowns either unless they were clearly hostile. And in general, I support Stephen Greer's initiative to ban shooting down UFOs. Again, with the caveat that if they're hostile, all bets are off. But that's just me, guys. Let me know what your thoughts about all this are in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, thumbs up, smash the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. Love to see you guys there. If you want to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, consider grabbing a coffee mug or a t-shirt and the merch store below. Become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.